That's awesome. And also, where do you vote? Because I know that, does it depend on where you live as well? Are there certain areas that you need to go to? What does it look like?
So that's a great question, and we have several options. So when you register, if you registered with a TU address, there are two precincts that are right here close to campus where you would register, and it'll tell you on this little voter card that you get in the mail, or you can look it up at the voter portal. But one of the locations, if you are on the east side of Delaware, is the University United Methodist Church. And so that's a polling location. The other one, if you live on the other side of Delaware where the track is and the apartments, then that's over at St. Anthony's Orthodox Church. So, but both of them are right here near campus, easy within walking distance. So that is where you would go to vote on election day, Tuesday, November 3rd. You also have some other options. If you did not register with your TU address, if you registered out of state, or even if you're from Oklahoma, but somewhere far enough away that you're not going to go home on a Tuesday to vote, then you request your absentee ballot from your home state's election board, and they will mail it to you, and then you fill it out and you return it by mail. And you probably heard there's a lot of people all across the country that are voting by mail this year because of the COVID, the risk with the pandemic. So my suggestion would be, if that's the way you're voting, is to do that sooner rather than later, just because of the huge numbers of ballots, and it may slow down the mail a little bit, and you want to be sure that you return your ballot before election day on November 3rd. There's also a third option if you're a Tulsa County registered voter, that you can go in person to vote early. And that starts on the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before the election. So I think that is October 29th, 30th, and 31st. And in Tulsa County, the early voting location is going to be downtown where the Drillers play at One Oak Field at Driller Stadium. So those three options: you can vote absentee by mail, you can vote early in person at the Driller Stadium, or you can vote election day at your regular polling location that'll be on your card.
That's awesome. It's great that we are able to have different opportunities to be able to vote. So it's not just a one and done deal, but there's also ways to make sure that everyone's able to do their civic duty.
It's so great, and it sounds simple, but I encourage people to just look at your calendar or think about what are Tuesdays usually like for you. And if Tuesdays are usually a crazy busy day and you go from class to activities to work or whatever, then you may really want to just block out some time on the early voting, or if you are from Lawton or Enid or somewhere where you're not going to drive home on a Tuesday to vote, then be sure that you are right now requesting your absentee ballot from the state of Oklahoma, and they'll mail it to your TU address and you can get that turned around.
Awesome. Do you have any last minute advice for first time voters?
Well, I would say for first time voters, definitely go to the Oklahoma voter portal and pull down your sample ballot. Because right now, what is everybody, what we hear on the news and what everybody's following is the presidential election. But I pulled down my ballot, and it printed on this giant paper that was in our printer. But you can see, for example, how many things are on the ballot. So the presidential race is there at the top, but for where I live, which is further south in Tulsa, we have some state elections, my congressional election, my state senator, a bunch of judges, and then there are two different state questions that everybody has on their ballot. So those are things that you really are going to want to just look up and kind of investigate. We partner with the League of Women Voters. I think they do a great job on their nonpartisan voter guide, where you can go, especially on these state questions, and see what does it mean. People who are supporting this say, these things, and people who are opposed to this question say these things. So the League of Women Voters has a great voter guide, and I would just say try to be informed, and the best way to do that is to take a look at your ballot. Another tip is if you ever go into to vote and there's a race on there that you didn't have a chance to look it up, you didn't you're not sure of the candidates, you don't have to vote in everything that's on your ballot. So it's perfectly fine if you're more comfortable saying, gosh, you know what, I forgot to do my research on this state legislative race. Instead of taking a risk and just guessing, you can just skip that one, and then you're sure that you're not accidentally voting for somebody that doesn't line up with you at all.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here for this interview, and we are going to go back into the show.
All right, thanks for having me.